Hey everyone, welcome to Visible Kindness, another episode that explores how kindness can affect us internally, changing our lives, and externally that actually shapes the world around us, a way we love to live, and we need more of. I'm your host, Ed Squire, and today we're going to dive into one of my favorite concepts called the butterfly effect. And in this episode, we're going to take a look at how even simple acts of kindness can make a powerful impact in ways that we never even expected, and sometimes we didn't know. And so where does the butterfly effect come from? I have a friend by the name of Andy Andrews who wrote a book, this is going to be over 10 years ago. It's called The Butterfly Effect, How Your Life Matters. If you've never read this book, it's very, very good. And it's very powerful. So I got a few quotes out of his book and some of the stories, and well, not stories, but some of the quotes. It's just so great. And so the butterfly effect is also something that he didn't invent, but it's actually, we'll get into it. There's science behind what I'm actually saying. And so the big thing is, I want to make an impact in your life today, and I want to do it in ways that you never imagined, and neither did I. Because that's what happened for me. It's an amazing concept. So let's give it a shot. Here we go. If you've never heard of the butterfly effect, we're going to dive into this thing. It can be a major catalyst that we have, and I hope that it actually helps us to understand more of that we can be powerful in our kindness in ways that we never expected. We'll take a look at how the actual science behind it works. There's a couple of stories that I have, and there's 5 practical ways that you can embrace the butterfly effect in your everyday life. So here we go. If you've never heard of the term, it's actually rooted in what's known as the chaos theory. And that's the idea that a butterfly flapping its wings in one part of the world can actually set off a chain of events leading to something as monumental as a hurricane halfway around the world. Now, when I first heard of that and read about it and looked into it, like I'm going to share with you today, it blew my mind. I thought, sure. Right? But what actually happens is the molecules that are affected by a butterfly flapping its wings or anything moving, right? Anything moving, it impacts other molecules that are in the air and in the ground and in us and in physical things are changed. And I thought it sounded crazy at first, but it doesn't. So let's take a look at what this actually means from the scientific perspective. The guy by the name of Edward Lorenz, back in the 60s, he was a meteorologist, and he presented at a conference a hypothesis behind this, and it was done at the New York Academy of Science. And he said that a butterfly could flap its wings and set molecules of air in motion, which would move other molecules of air, and in that air eventually become capable of starting a hurricane on the other side of the planet. That's a quote unquote. His ideas actually made everyone laugh out of the conference, which probably would have made me laugh too. But what he proposed was something ridiculous that everybody said this is preposterous. But it was certainly fascinating, and we really appreciated you sharing this at this scientific convention. Incredible. But imagine the scientific communities, they had shock come on them when they found out over 30 years later that the possibility was actually there and it was introduced. So physics and professors worked on this with colleges and universities worldwide, and surprisingly, it came to the conclusion that the butterfly effect was actually authentic. It was actually accurate and a viable scientific proof. And it was eventually recorded as the status of a law. Isn't that something? Which is now called, if I can remember this correctly, the law of sensitive dependence upon initial conditions. Did I get that right? The law of sensitive dependence upon initial conditions. Sensitive dependence upon initial conditions. Yes, so that's when the butterfly first flaps its wings and things begin to move. So they found out it was a very profound thing. Small inputs could lead to a massive and unpredictable result over time. And you know what? That actually makes sense to me. That does make sense. So the principle has proved to be a force, which was much more than just butterfly wings. Butterfly wings is cute, It's just, but it's very true. It's amazing. The science has actually shown that the butterfly effect engages in the first movement of any form of matter. That's what it is, and that includes people. And so meteorologists use this big time when it comes to weather, and it happens in every type of profession. But here's the thing: this concept isn't limited to just weather patterns. It's human interactions that are just as complex, and they're interconnected. I love this, and that's what Andy Andrews' book is about, and that's why things like a smile, a compliment, or like a random act of kindness might seem small, but they have potential to alter someone's mood, their decisions, and even their where they're headed in life, their trajectory. It may go somewhere, it may not. Sometimes we may know, sometimes we won't. But let's look at it from that perspective, not like the hurricane part. You can Google that on your own. But so let's say the tiny flap, right, of a kind word, the beginning of your butterfly wing, right? Or maybe it's a thoughtful gesture, or just a moment of care towards someone. It could actually set off a ripple effect that actually transforms not just one person's life, but an entire community, an entire nation, from small to really big. Wouldn't you like to know that? Wouldn't you like to have that effect in your life? Have you ever thought about how significant that your life is? Have you ever gone beyond just thinking it? This is somewhere where I have learned how to live, and I absolutely love it. I love living this way. It makes every single day in my life better. So how do you make a difference? I talk about this a lot with the podcasts that I make, and I also hear from my guests a lot on what they do. So how do you make a difference when you move, when you say something, when you act, when you just do something, anything? How does that happen? What I do, does it really matter? How significant is it with what I do? I think a lot of times we are so caught up in our thinking, meaning, we have such stress in our lives. And this is on my last episode I talked about where the culture is today, where there's so much stress in our lives. It's so easy to go, like right now, I'm filming this just before Thanksgiving, and everybody's busy Thanksgiving. I just went down to Sam's Club to get some stuff, and it's busy. And I always make an effort. For me, it's becoming more second nature now to be kind to someone, and it's so simple to do. Like when I walked in, as I'm walking in, the couple was walking out. You could tell they were stressed with what they got, the shopping, and I said, "How's it going in there?" And they said, "It's not good." And they laughed, and I laughed too. I said, "Well, I'm going to give it a shot." And just everywhere you go, you can make a difference. And anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. So think about this. For example, when was the last time you said to a stranger something like that? Or if you held a door open for them, or if you gave them a smile, or you gave them a compliment on a tough day, a tough day for you, or a tough day which may be for them. Because you can tell when people are having a tough day. They can tell probably when you are too. So maybe if you were more patient with the next person that you interacted with, or it might have been given to you maybe to get the motivation of keep going, right? That's what the butterfly is. A butterfly effect is like in action. And when I was in Sam's Club, I'm literally, this is what my life is every day. Yeah, I just love doing it. It just makes me feel so good when I'm just performing. I'm just being kind with every step that I take. So there's also a medical portion behind it, which I mentioned in my last episode. I'm going to mention it again because it's so great. Kindness isn't just warm and fuzzy. It feels good, but how does it get there, right? So here's the kicker. Kindness is actually, or it can be, contagious, right? And research from the University of California in San Diego, they found that when people observe an act of kindness, they're more likely to perform an act of kindness themselves. Absolutely. Just wearing shirts that say be kind will do that. And that creates like a ripple effect that extends far beyond just the original act. And I'm going to talk about my shirts too. So studies have shown that small acts of kindness can actually trigger oxytocin. That's what I said in the last episode. Oxytocin is sometimes called the love hormone. Well, that's great. I love it. I do love it. So it's not only, it only makes us feel good, but it has physical benefits like lowering our blood pressure and feeling stress and not feeling so much stress. You reduce that. And like I said, I mentioned in my last episode where a lady, I held the door open for this woman, and it was like she was like 50 feet away from the door, and I stood there. It was like there was nobody coming in, coming out. I stood there, held the door open. I thought this is going to be weird, but I'm gonna do this. I held the door open, held the door open, held the door open. She came in. She goes, "You're holding the door open for me that long?" I said, "Yes, I am," and it just totally made her day. Right? It was just such a simple thing that didn't take any time. And it wasn't that uncomfortable. And we both, I mean, it made us both smile. And it absolutely triggered oxytocin for me because it felt so great. And I'm pretty sure she felt it too. So wouldn't that be great that you're having that kind of an impact in people's lives? More kindness, more of it to be given. So there's a couple of stories I want to share that talk about how the butterfly effect of kindness that has happened in my life. I share them a lot, but I came up with two ideas that were very specific, and one that had an impact on countless lives. It was absolutely incredibly huge that I had no intention and no expectation for that, and one that was very small, which I don't know if it has a big impact or not, because we don't know. So here, I'll give you this one example. I might have shared this before because it is so great. It was I think I did. I think I actually did this in the last episode too, which is fine. Which is fine. Hang on, I got my Canadian coffee. I always talk too fast, I know. So there was a time when I went into a Starbucks coffee shop, and it's busy, right? It was in the morning, and there was a lady there. I don't know. She must have been, like me, in her 60s. I'm not in my 60s yet, but I'm only a couple months away. That's incredible. But I don't care. It's no big deal. Life is good. And I was wearing one of my shirts that said, one small act of kindness can change someone's entire day. I love that one. And whenever I'm wearing a shirt like I am now, I forget that I'm wearing it. And I purposefully wear these shirts because for me, I suffer, it's going to sound strange, but I suffer from a ton of depression. And I know there's people listening that do as well. And I put on a good act, a lot of the times. And so when I was really suffering from depression I think it was about 8 years ago, it was a whole different story. I'll put it in my book I'm going to be writing next year about my memoir. It's just really hard to believe, but it's very true. But so I started to wear these shirts because I felt better, and people would respond to me and react to me in kind ways that were just natural. And so this time when I walked into the Starbucks, the lady said, she goes, "Oh, I could use no, it wasn't one small kindness. It says one small kind word can change someone's entire, not one small kind word, one kind word. I should be wearing that shirt. One kind word can change someone's entire day." And that's when she's taking my order, she said to me, "Oh, I could use a kind word." And I was like, "Huh? What?" And I forgot that I was wearing it. She goes, "Yeah." And she points at my shirt. "Your shirt says one kind word can change someone's entire day." So I said, "Okay." And then I told her, I said, "I don't know what it is about you." I said, "But you just look great today." I said, "I don't know if it's your makeup or your hair or what you're wearing," but I said, "The whole thing just looks so good." And I said it like that. That's just me, right? You don't have to be like me. You be yourself. And she just started to light up as she smiled. The people behind me were like, it was just something just happened there. And she said, "Well, thank you very much. That absolutely totally made my day. I needed to hear that." And she ended up buying my coffee. I couldn't believe that happened. And so who knows who talked to who that they saw that, like, if I was in a Starbucks and I saw that happen, I'd be telling you right now, you wouldn't believe what happened today. And who knows who she talked about? Who knows what other people that she was working with that would have saw it, would have said something. And so that's a very small thing that made a big deal in her life. And that's the way I live today. So, by the way, there's the other shirts I have are, one says it's cool to be kind. Be kind whenever possible. It is always possible. I got a couple of others, and I know next year I got to start. I would love to sell them. It'd be great. People love them. So yeah. But then there's another story where I want to share on this episode, which I never shared it in the place of kindness. So a lot of people know my past, and that I unfortunately had a massive trauma that I suffered when I was young, from age 3 until like I was 10, and I was sexually abused by my grandfather, my next door neighbor, and an elementary school teacher. That's going to be in my book next year as well. And amazingly, I've got a lot of film that I created, and what I'm about to tell you is a lot of what I filmed. So there was a time when I decided that because there's no, I forget what it's called. When a law only exists for so long, and then you can't do it anymore. And it's a horrible thing the horrible thing that's in place when it comes to abuse. And a lot of people know I just had a brain surgery recently too, and I can't remember really basic words a lot of the time, but it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? The reality is, back in Canada, where I'm from, in the province of British Columbia, the school district did not have statute of limitations. Statute of limitations that existed that said after so many years you can no longer sue for this or that or the other thing. And unfortunately, that's a lot down here, and it's been changing slowly over the years. But unbelievably, that was wide open. That if you wanted to sue or go to trial for that, you could do it. So I decided to do that. And then, when my lawyer asked me, do I want to do this publicly or do I want to do it privately? Because I know another friend of mine in a different province and in a different situation also went through the same thing, and he did it privately, which is fine, which is absolutely fine. And I decided with guts to do it publicly. Why would I want to do that publicly? I didn't want anyone to know my story. Never knew I'd write a book or do a documentary on my story. Never knew that what I'd be doing now is incredible when it comes to Me Too, What Now? And that's going to be, I'm relaunching that in the new year as well. It's going to be incredible. Never did I think that I would do that. And so I decided to go public with it. And the reasons why I decided to go public with it were because I wanted any other boys who are now men that I went to school with that this teacher had abused. I wanted them, if they saw me or heard what I was doing, because I was in the newspaper, on the radio, and I was on television down here, and I suddenly started having a lot of friends of mine that I was in elementary school with contact me, and so their lives were impacted, and that is more than kindness. I mean, it's love on a whole different level. But to me, love is kind and kind is love. They fit together. And so it had a huge impact on many boys that are now men. But another thing that is absolutely, I couldn't believe it happened, is that I was introduced to another boy who was also abused, and he was 5 years younger than me. So this is 5 years that teacher had been abusing boys. And so, by the way, he ended up going to prison, and he's dead now. So that's a whole other, that's just, there's a lot going on. There really is. But what he did was he decided to sue as well. We both sued. And long story short, he ended up going to trial. This was during COVID too. He ended up going to trial, and that just extended it for so long, and that was hard on him. But at the very end, he decided what he wanted to do was he wanted the school district to write him a letter that says, "We're so sorry for all this stuff that happened to you." And then he wanted to get the $3 million in what he had brought into the lawsuit that he wanted to get. Now, how could I be saying that, right? Because you're typically not allowed to be telling people what came out in a trial, and he wanted a public apology, a letter written, and he wanted all the money he asked for. And he'd be darned if he didn't get it all. He got it all. And so it's public. You can Google it, and it's there. And it'll be in my book when I do my book, and in my documentary, it'll be part of my documentary. But it's just incredible. This was the biggest thing that happened in the country of Canada when it came to childhood sexual abuse in the school systems. It was just unbelievable. And that never would have happened if we didn't meet. It never would have happened if I did one small step. You see what I mean? That's what I'm getting at. It was one act of kindness that I did, and it grew and it grew and it grew and it grew, and ended up changing a lot of lives. That's what this is all about. So I wanted to share two examples with you. One that was small that can happen any day, and one that's big, even if you're fearful. Do it, right? And when I say fearful, it could be a job decision. It could be a business you're starting. It could be anything. But it's anything that we have fear and anxiety about something, and it's these are the things that have driven me in the ways I'm going. So, yeah, that's just a wonderful story, and I can't wait to get the book out, and I can't wait to do the documentary. And it's going to be incredible. So, as it's called, the butterfly effect, right? And so, in those stories, and in the stories that we hear, and in the things that we do, sometimes acts of kindness may or may not be visible. But they can still have a profound effect, and they can have a lasting impact. Just like my second story, actually, all of the acts of kindness that I do and that I receive, I don't forget. I don't think I forget. I might, because I can't even remember certain words. So how can we all embrace the butterfly effect in our own lives? So here's a few practical tips. I shared some in the last episode. These are different. They're not the same. You don't need grand gestures and big deals. Just smile at a stranger, hold the door open, offer like a sincere compliment or something like that, and do that when you make a purchase or when you walk into somewhere. So here's the first one: is just be intentional. Be intentional. So make it a habit to look for opportunities to be kind, right? So some people, I haven't done this, I want to do this. Some people carry extra snacks with them to give to homeless people. Some carry money. I actually like giving money away. Some people say, oh, you shouldn't do that. It's up to you what you want to do. I love giving money away, especially when I find when I give money away, or recently I filled up a gas tank for somebody, and it was like $50, and then I ended up receiving, the people have given me money out of that. Nobody gives me money unless I give money, which is the wildest thing. Here's some of it right here, just sitting here. This is a big bunch of money that was given to me. I'm just giving back out. I'm not going to use it for anything but giving back out, because I think if I give it back out, I'm going to get more. That's probably what will happen. But I'm just kidding. But that's what can happen. So another thing you can do is you can, and I like doing this. You can like write a thank you note to people some way, or send a thank you text, which I said in the last episode. But in my where I carry my laptop in a backpack, I have thank you cards in, really nice. They're small, nice thank you cards, and I will give those out in many different situations, right? Where I want to say thank you. So that works well. The other one is number 2 is a practice. This is what I need to do is proactive, active listening, because I talk so much. That's why I like doing a podcast. But sometimes the kindest thing you can do is simply to just be present and just to listen without judging or giving your opinion and saying stuff. These are things I've had to learn, and I'm still learning, because I want to help so much. And sometimes people just want an open ear. They just want you to, and especially when it comes, I gotta tell you, especially when it comes to people talking to me about their trauma. Sometimes they're not ready for a doctor or psychiatrist or psychologist or a mental health therapist, which I highly recommend, but they're not ready for it. I actually wrote a book about this, on what I did to get free from this stuff. And part of it was I really brought other survivors into my life as friends. And there's a whole chapter on just, it's important to get, if you need medicine, you get medicine. You need to go to psychologist, go to psychologist. And physiotherapy, yeah, maybe. Mental health therapy, and get to know people that have been where you've been, because it's a lot of great things happen in that. So that's a very important thing to do. So sometimes the thing that you do can simply be just be there and just listen. And I'm still practicing these things. Another one. So the third one is I like to say, give without an expectation. Right. So when I filled that guy's gas tank, and I think you might have heard me do this, and I put a clip up on my website, on Facebook about it. And there were 2 homeless guys living in a car, and you looked in their car, and they were clearly living out of this car. And I gave to them, and the one guy's become a friend of mine. And I never expect anything out of that, for sure. And the one guy was trying to dig in the trunk to find something for me to give, and he came up with this. It was like a blender or something like that. And I said, no, I don't need anything. I really don't need anything. But just no expectation when you do that. Like this guy gave me like $120. He just pulled this money out of his pocket, and then I got $60 the other day. It's like, because I fill up a guy's tank for $50. It's incredible. but don't give with expectation. Just give, right? Just give. That's the beauty of this butterfly effect, is that you don't need to see the outcome, right? Just believe that your actions are rippling out in ways that you don't know. It's impossible. I think it's impossible to be kind and it doesn't make an impact. Number 4 is like teach and inspire others. That's what I'm doing right now. If you're a parent, absolutely teach your children. Are you teaching your children? You probably are. I've never had kids, but it's good to teach them how important it is to be kind to other people, yes, and to themselves. It's so important. So, and share your experiences with them and other people, right? Encourage other people to join you in creating ripples. That's why I like to see when there's fundraising events, for example, to make an impact in different things. It's so wonderful. I tell people about this podcast. That's a great idea. And I would actually like to hear stories from you. I haven't been asking. I've never asked that in my podcast. So I would love to hear stories from you. And now that I'm doing this on YouTube, leave comments and I will get back on the comments. You can also email me, and I'll give you my email address at the end of this. It's ed@visiblekindness.com. And you don't have to be perfect with what you're doing. That's the big thing. Just do it. Do your best to make it a practice. Do your best that it happens in your life every day. And it doesn't got to be a big deal. The smallest things can really make a big, extraordinary difference and put things in motion. And it's really a great way to live. Don't get so wrapped up in pursuing whatever it is you're pursuing that you forget to be kind, and be kind in extraordinary ways. Just blow people away with little. It could be small, it could be big. It's an amazing way to live. And if you put that into your business that you're doing, that's a whole nother thing. Never mind your personal life. You put that into your business, and it's just a wonderful way to run your business, is having kindness in there. It's incredible. When I used to be a high-end consultant for Fortune 500 companies, what a difference these companies were like. And I gotta tell you, in Europe, I was working for just a massive pharmaceutical company worth $50 billion. And I'm working with the CIO, and he was so kind. This guy was so nice. And the entire environment in there, the employees and everybody, it was such a wonderful feeling in there. And when I worked at a lot of places in the US, rarely, I'm not saying never, but rarely was it like that. A place that was not like that was Boeing. And that's not a surprise. It's not a surprise. And the kindness just didn't gel. It did not happen there. And so it can happen at a corporate level too, in a big way. So remember, it's this every small action that you can do, that you can touch someone's life or somewhere in your business, and it'll happen in ways that you won't even understand or might never understand. So it teaches us that we are deeply interconnected. We are all deeply interconnected. And here comes stuff that I got out of Andy Andrews' book, which is just incredible. I love where he's going with this. Definitely get that book. It will change your life. It's big time. And so he talks about how deeply connected we are, and I agree with that. And it's in our actions, no matter how small they are, they have power, and we all have the ability to create a world that makes more compassionate, loving, and kindness with just one small gesture every single time. And we need it so bad today. So this is from Andy. If I can get it straight, I'm going to read it out of the book because I'm not going to get it straight. This is what he said. I love this. Everything you do matters. And that's the butterfly effect. Remember, every flap of the wing changes the molecule, and it can create a hurricane on the other side of the world, apparently. That's what they say. But everything you do matters. Every move you make, every action you take matters. And that's not even if we're kind. Just what we do matters. And it's not just to you or your family or your business or your hometown. Everything you do matters to all of us forever. Forever. All right, you got to read this book. I mean, it will change your life. I've recommended this book so many times. So, I mean, I started Visible Kindness back in, I don't know what it was. I've done 2 years. I missed a year or two of podcasting. Now I'm back getting the groove. Doesn't matter. So I started this based on, well, for me, it was to get me out of deep depression and I was suicidal at the time. And I came to the point where I wanted this to be, like, there's a scripture in the Bible that really meant a lot to me, and it was Mark chapter 12, 30, 31. And how amazing is this? At the church I go to, Pastor Jeff, this was the scripture he used to preach. It was about 2 or 3 weeks ago. I'm like, oh my gosh, right? Everything is connected. How is it possible out of the entire Bible? Think of that, the entire Bible, that the scripture of the day that he was using to preach was this. It was, love God with all your heart, all your soul, all your mind, and love your neighbor as yourself, your neighbors as yourself. Now that is so big. It's easy to read, like we do the Bible. It's a whole other thing. I am slow to read the Bible, but that is the ultimate and the eternal effect of what the butterfly effect is. The very beating of your heart has a meaning and a purpose for something. And when we learn how to love God and then love our neighbors as ourselves. Now, if you love your neighbor as yourself, that's good. But if you don't have God in your life, and I get it, not everybody does, but I'm just telling you, I've lived a life without God, loving my neighbor as myself, but myself was not good. Not good. The only way I've ever been able to become good, define that any way you want, but I mean, a person that's not so hurt, right? Because I've suffered so much hurt in my life and trauma. We all have good and bad. But I mean, when I learned how to love God with all my heart, soul, and mind, and then how to love my neighbor as myself, that has completely changed. That has completely changed my life. And actually, that is the 1 year. I've talked about this before. I don't know if I've done an episode on it, but I need to. 1 year anniversary, and still in my living room, it's got my whiteboard that says October 31st is your 1 year anniversary of how my life changed in a big, big way. And my podcast is changing because of that as well. So, see, your actions, they have value. And it's far greater than gold and money, right? It is your life and what you do with it right now and today. It matters forever. If you look at it from a biblical perspective, which it's like this: either the Bible is either the Bible is there and it's true, or it's not. Either God is right and true, or not. Either Jesus died for me, and it's either that's all a big story, or it's not. I believe absolutely the reality of it. Absolutely the reality. So, yeah, I just want to say, if you enjoyed this episode, I got to bring it to an end. Share it with people that might want to be inspired by you, what you have to give them. And if you have a story about kindness, I would love to hear from you. I want to start doing that. You can email it to me at invisiblekindness.com. Leave a comment on YouTube. That's going to be great. I look forward to starting to do that on YouTube. Or you can go to my Facebook page. I have a Visible Kindness Facebook page, and I'm putting kindness stuff on my regular page, but I'm going to have too much going soon with Me Too Right Now, Visible Kindness, and my life. So I want to start just growing the Facebook channel for Visible Kindness. So I just want to say thank you for listening to me. Thank you for this is a great episode, and I'm just saying that I'm feeling good by the end of it myself. So I'll say until next time, remember that you are the butterfly. Let your wings create ripples of kindness wherever you go, and it's always cool. It's always cool to be kind. So I'll see you later on the next episode. Take care.